They say there are substances you don't just taste, but that awaken memories you didn't know you had. Among them is one that, in silence, has accompanied prophets, healers, alchemists, yet now rests, almost forgotten, in a kitchen jar. Cinnamon. Not as a spice, as fire. Because if you look beyond the aromatic powder, you'll see it holds a sleeping force. The ancients prized it not for its sweetness, but for its vibration. They saw it as a shard of the material sun, a spark of conscious heat capable of piercing the skin and touching that other body, the one unseen. And that's where this journey begins. Before starting this video, remember to subscribe and give it a like. Pause for a moment and bring your awareness to the exact point between your eyebrows. It's not just skin. It's not just bone. It's a threshold, a silent door to inner vision. The Vedas called it Ajna. The Egyptians depicted it as the Eye of Horus. The Taoists said it's where the spirit peeks into the world. You don't need to understand it with the mind. Your body already knows. That spot has been called the third eye. But it's not an eye to look outward. It's a beacon that lights the vision inward. And like any beacon, it needs a spark. Something to kindle the fire without burning. To invite without forcing. Cinnamon then becomes that gentle fire. Not one that devastates, but one that caresses like the first ray of sun touching damp earth. When you place it on the brow, something awakens. A faint warmth. A tingling. The sensation of touching something sacred. But here the gesture matters as much as the substance. Because this is not about applying for the sake of applying. It's about doing it with intention. Cinnamon doesn't obey logic. It responds to vibrational coherence. To the purpose you carry when, in silence, you touch that ancient point of power. And then it happens. The mind quiets. The focus sharpens. Attention alights like a bird on the center of your forehead. And where attention goes, energy follows. And where energy flows, something stirs. Because perhaps without knowing it, it wasn't just powder you placed on your skin. It was a key. A reminder. A spark of a truth your soul knows but had buried beneath haste, noise, and constant logic. Suddenly, you no longer see as before. Not with your eyes. With something deeper. As if life began to unfold without filters. As if you were finally seeing what was always there, awaiting your gaze. There are gestures that seem small, almost invisible, but that open portals. One of them begins with something as simple as brushing cinnamon across your brow. Not as a habit. Not as curiosity. But as a sacred act. Because on this path, intention is everything. The ritual needs no altar, no incense to hold power. It only needs presence. Because cinnamon does not act alone. It needs you to be fully there, looking inward. And when you take that moment and bring the spice to your third eye with a silent whisper of purpose, something shifts. The air thickens, time slows, and the body recognizes, this is not ordinary. You breathe deeply. Perhaps you close your eyes. You let the warmth begin its dance. A gentle tingling spreads like a warm wave from within. It's not just a physical sensation, it's a vibrational call. An echo that travels through skin, muscle, thought, and reaches the center of being. What follows isn't always visible, but it's felt. The mind refines. Daily noise dissipates like mist under sunlight. Some report a slight pressure on the brow, others begin to see colors, symbols, memories. There's no single experience but a shared certainty. Something has awakened. The third eye, when it answers, doesn't do so with fireworks. It does so with clarity. It begins to reveal what was always there but unnoticed. Coincidences cease to be random. Intuition becomes lucid. Sometimes it even hurts, because seeing also means facing what we decided not to look at. Many say that after the ritual, their dreams transform. Vivid imagery, coded messages, encounters with forgotten parts of themselves. Others feel a dormant creativity start to flow. Verses, ideas, decisions once hidden by fear. And then, something curious happens. Time becomes elastic. Moments stretch into revelations. People begin to hear the subtle rhythm beneath reality's surface, like an ancient drumbeat returning from silence. The mundane world doesn't vanish, but it becomes layered, each moment imbued with symbolic resonance, with invitation. They say colors become more alive. Sounds more textured. Silence less empty. As if consciousness itself now breathes through everything. Not always comfortable, but undeniably alive. The awakened eye does not close again. It remains a quiet companion, not demanding but constant. It watches as you re-enter the world, not to escape it, but to see it differently. To see through it. And in that shift, something profound realigns. Purpose emerges not as a goal to chase, but as a presence that was always waiting. And through it all, cinnamon remains. Not as protagonist but as bridge. not as magic but as reminder. Its heat tempers, it does not burn. It sustains the process when truth turns raw. Because awakening vision can stir trapped emotions, painful memories, patterns that no longer serve. The key is not to judge what arises. Just observe. Hold. Breathe. Because once you choose to cross that threshold, there's no turning back. Not because something external changes you, but because you chose to look with new eyes. And once you see, you can't unsee. So when you place the cinnamon, don't do it expecting a miracle. Do it like someone knocking on an inner door with humility, like lighting a candle in your own cavern. Because perhaps in that very silence, the deepest part decides to reveal itself. And then you'll see, not with your eyes, but with your soul. In the end, you realize the true right is neither in the cinnamon nor the technique. It's in what you do with what you've seen. Because opening the inner eye isn't the climax of a journey, it's just the beginning of a different way of inhabiting life. At first, the ritual may feel like a miraculous spark. But over time, you discover that it's not about igniting the fire once, but about keeping it alive. And that fire isn't maintained by empty repetition. The third eye doesn't respond to routine but to presence, to reverence. Each time you bring cinnamon to your brow with intention, remind yourself, this is not an ordinary gesture, it's a key, once more. And then integration begins. Practice moves beyond that moment of application and starts to permeate the everyday. You see differently. You listen more deeply. Not because you have powers, but because you're more present. Intuition no longer shouts, it whispers. And you learn to understand that language. You may notice small signs after each ritual. A conversation that once confused you now reveals a pattern. An idea you dismissed returns with strength. A body sensation you ignored becomes a clear message. Everything seems connected. Because it is. But this new clarity also carries responsibility. You cannot ask for vision and then ignore what you see. If the third eye has opened even slightly, your way of living changes too. Not to become someone else, but to become more yourself. Because deep vision doesn't distance you from the world. It roots you in it. It shows you the sacred in the trivial, the symbolic in the apparent, the eternal in the fleeting. Therefore, care for the channel. Cleanse it not only with rituals but with actions. Less noise, more silence. Fewer distractions, more contemplation. Cinnamon can ignite vision, but you sustain the flame. With your thoughts. With what you consume. With the choices you make. And when you notice decisions flowing more clearly, relationships growing more honest, your purpose feeling less confused, you'll understand that seeing is not an act of the eyes, but a state of the soul. So don't underestimate the gesture. That intimate, sacred moment when you place a pinch of cinnamon on your brow with the intention of remembering who you are. Because perhaps you're not only touching your skin, you're touching a promise. You're lighting a torch that doesn't illuminate paths outside, but within. And from there, without words, everything is seen. Everything. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you in the next video.